Hey, San Antonio, Raul Jimenez here with the Schrader Group. I'm joined with Robbie Thomae from Presidio Roofing. We're doing a segment on our local experts and people that I use and I call my personal go-to guys. So Robbie, please introduce yourself and your company.
Absolutely. Well, thanks, Raul, again for giving me the opportunity to be here. My name is Robbie Thomae, and I own Presidio Roofing. Our business has been here in San Antonio for 6 years, and we do installations of all sorts of different roofing systems on residential properties, including shingle, tile, metal, and some other specialty type items as well.
Awesome. So the way we kind of got into business was I needed a roof on my personal home, and I've had plenty of roofers because I've been in the business for a while. But you know, we crossed paths, and Robbie came by. I was impressed by his service, his quality, his workmanship, and ever since then, he's been my go-to guy with all my clients when they need, you know, to list their house, get a new roof, or even buyers that need to go out there and they're looking at a roof, get a second opinion, see how much life's left on the roof. So part of what my job is as a listing specialist is to go to your house, evaluate the property, tell you some pointers as far as touch-ups, what we should do, what we shouldn't do, maybe do some landscaping items. But ultimately, I look at your big factors, right? Your roof system, your plumbing, electrical, HVAC systems. And what I'm able to do is I'm able to guide and figure out, well, we probably got some issues. This roof looks like it's had a couple years on it. We might want to get it evaluated before, because we're 10 times better if we get ahead of it. That way when we list it, we get top dollar for our property and we sell for faster. So one of my questions I always get is, how does that process work? I recommend my go-tos, right? Which is you and your company. You go out and visit with my clients, kind of tell my guys or my girls out here how it works and what the process is from start to finish.
Absolutely. So, the process is really pretty simple, right? So whoever is representing the seller or the buyer at that point, reach out to us, let us know that they'd like for us to perform a roof inspection. We do those for free.
Okay.
And what we'll do is we'll send one of our qualified technicians that's out there. They're going to perform a quick inspection on the roofing system. Depending on whether or not it's a big 2-story or 3-story,
Sure.
something like that, we may have to incorporate a drone. But if it's just a normal house, 15 to 20 minutes is really all you need to get a really good quality inspection on there to determine whether or not the roof's in great condition, whether or not we need some repairs, whether or not maybe it's really old or it's got some other damage associated with it that needs to be replaced. And so, and then of course, we turn that information around as quickly as possible so that way y'all can make the most informed decision to advise your client as well as what to do.
So part of what I do when I drive through the neighborhoods, I look at your neighbors and see what's been going on in the neighborhood. If I see 3 or 4 roofs on the same street that have been repaired or replaced, then it's kind of a tall tale sign that, hey, you're probably in that zone to where you could get a replacement roof. Mm-hmm. How does that kind of work?
So it's really great that you're kind of looking at some of those things, right? So like when I get onto a roof, that's one of the first things I'll survey too is the rest of the neighborhood on any of the soft metal things like the turbines,
Sure.
Or people call them whirlybirds as well. If they have little dents in them and stuff like that, that can be indicative of the fact that maybe a previous hailstorm had affected that area. Here in San Antonio, we have hailstorms, we have wind events. The sun doesn't do us any favors either. It's a real hot and environment. And so effectively, if there was some sort of situation where it looked like some type of damage was associated with the roof that could have been attributed from one of those types of events, then potentially we could go through an insurance process.
Okay.
If the homeowner hadn't already filed, a claim. And so we could then work with you and help the seller determine what would be the best course of action of getting the claim filed and working with their insurance carrier, meeting the adjuster on site, helping the adjuster identify which areas potentially could be attributed to some sort of wind or hail related damage, and then maybe get the roofing system bought under insurance,
Sure.
Which would obviously be a huge benefit, not just for the person who's selling the property because they get to sell it being able to list that the roof is brand new, but also the amount of money that they're going to spend to replace that roof is going to be significantly reduced because all they're going to be paying is whatever the cost of their deductible is versus the full price.
Sure. And when we do go ahead and get a roof bought, you're able to transfer the warranty to the new buyer?
Absolutely,
Okay.
yes. So all of our warranties that we have, whenever they're done within a real estate transaction, are always going to be transferable.
Got you. So one of the good things that he mentioned was he meets the client or the adjuster on site. One of the things that I found is we're more likely to get a claim in our favor when someone's actually there representing the client, right? Mm-hmm. So it's one of those things that's a win-win, but it also gives us more value because then we're able to actually get top dollar for our property, which at the end of the day, everyone wants to make sure we earn all our hard-earned sweat equity. So let's say we're going through a claim and everything looks good, but my client's saying, you know what, I'm worried because I'm about to buy a new house and I don't want to file a claim because I don't want my next policy to be higher because I'm looking at a more expensive home. How does that process work? Does that adversely affect them or?
That's a fantastic question, and it's a concern that that we get asked all the time.
Sure.
And it makes sense intuitively, right? The reality is that if you're filing a claim, for instance, you have a hailstorm, right, and you go ahead and you file a claim, an insurance carrier is legally not allowed to increase your rates individually because you filed a claim for a situation that would be considered to be kind of an act of God, right? Now, is it likely that the insurance carrier, if it was a big enough storm that affected your entire area, let's say maybe by a zip code or something, that a certain percentage of the people in that area also filed claims because it was a large storm? Then it's very likely that all the rates in that area are going to increase, but it's not going to be a targeted or individual rate increase for the person.
Right.
So, the way that we have sort of approached that is that in the event that it is a big storm, which we've had some major storms here in the San Antonio area, your rates are going to be going up anyways, likely. So might as well do your diligence in the event that your roof was negatively impacted and does need to be replaced. That's what you have your insurance for. And so that's the way that works. So I understand the concern.
But it's not like a car policy, right? Like, so if you get a fender bender, then your rates are going to go up, and then your next car is going to stay high. I mean, when they move into their new house, it's a completely different policy that doesn't have any kind of...
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Got you. One of the other things that we have is our buy side, right? So whenever we're looking at houses, and he's been really good about it, is he'll look at an inspection report and be able to dictate how much it's going to cost and kind of break it down. Mm-hmm. We kind of give an insight as far as the pre-inspection, what it looks like on an inspection report, and being able to supplement for the buy side. I mean, we've talked about the seller side, but the buy side's huge too, because we're going into houses that probably need a lot of work, especially in San Antonio.
Absolutely. So, whenever the best place to start for us is either just to get on the roof, immediately, or to get that home inspection report. And a lot of the existing deals that we've done with y'all have been that way. You've emailed me the home inspection report, and it's given me just a little bit of an insight as to, okay, what are some of these problem areas that were identified by the home inspector that, of course, we're going to put eyes on too once we get there. And then the benefit from the perspective of a buyer, right, who is looking at that property is going to be that they're going to be able to determine what the cost is, that's going to be associated with any sort of repairs or replacements that they're going to need to go ahead and and put forth, and it's going to give them time to be able to get those things handled. There's a lot of mechanisms that I don't necessarily understand, but from a realtor's perspective, where you can either maybe reduce the sales price to account for any sort of cost that the buyer may have to incur to fix their roof. Or maybe you set aside some money, that gets offset, like at the title company or whatever, that applies to it maybe after the transaction gets finalized. And so having all that information is just going to put the buyer in the best possible position, to make the right decision at the end of the day. And so the first step's always to get your home inspection report, but anytime that you can get a qualified roofing professional as a second opinion, we're going to be able to kind of get a more fine-tuned, idea of what's going on. And a roof repair on just a couple of basic things can only be, potentially a few $100s. I mean, not necessarily anything particularly expensive. Obviously, if it goes to a full replacement, you could be looking at $10,000 to $15,000 depending on the size, and much more, potentially much less if it's a really small house versus a really big house. But I think probably the most important thing that I've learned from y'all is that the best thing that you can give your client is time, right? So the sooner you get all that information, then the better, the better amount of time that you have to make the right decision, as opposed to feeling stressed at the very end if you're working up against a closing date or the end of an option.
Yeah, we worked plenty of those deals.
Yes.
One thing I really love about your company and you guys is that you're accredited with a lot of insurance companies, you do a lot of disaster reliefs for the country. I mean, talk a little bit about your credentials and what makes you maybe a little bit better off than some of the other guys out there.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, we're a local company, so we feel that we have, some nuanced understanding and knowledge of this particular market that we're here in San Antonio. Like I mentioned before, San Antonio is not from a weather cycle or environment perspective, it's not a friendly place towards roofing systems. But in addition to that, a lot of our technicians are Hague certified, which Hague is kind of the overriding body of education for the roofing industry, and so they're certified on being able to look at residential properties and commercial properties as well. One of the things that you said about some of the disaster relief is that we do a lot of projects for the Blue Roof Mission, for the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, and for FEMA. I think there's been times where maybe you've called me to ask me to come look at a roof, and I said, well, I'm in Louisiana at the moment, or in Florida at the moment, because when hurricanes come in, we're one of the companies that gets contracted to go out by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to install blue tarps on tens of thousands of roofing systems. And And so our ability to be able to do that is because we have the highest insurance that's available.
Okay.
The minimum requirements that the city of San Antonio would require any contractor to have, our insurance, far exceeds that.
Wonderful.
So those are some of the different credentials that we have, and some of the ways that, I think a client can be real comfortable that we have all the coverages, and, any sort of exposure that they may potentially have is mitigated by the type of insurance and the type of underwriting that we have at our company.
That's huge, because most people, they get a business card and they say they're in business and they're trying to sell or buy roofs. But that's why we go to our go-tos. Robbie's been a great go-to partner for us for many years now. One thing I do like, and sometimes we get in a position where we're going to sell a house, maybe the insurance company did not grant him a new roof, but it needs it.
Sure.
Maybe something happened in the past. We've done some things in the past to where you've been able to get us a new roof and just have it netted out at closing for our clients. That way we're able to still get the transaction done, but at the same token get top dollar and be able to give the new buyer a new roof, but it doesn't cost my seller anything today, but we're able to net it out at the closing table. Definitely a huge perk. Could you explain a little bit about how that looks?
Absolutely. We appreciate y'all's business so much, and we really enjoy working with realtors. And so we know that the reality is most of the time, whenever you need to get a roofing system replaced or repaired, it's usually happening pretty close to the to the final day.
Right.
And that time frame is so important for y'all. And so the way that we try to mirror that, or at least the way that we try to provide a good value-added service for that, is we understand that the transaction's about to take place. We know that that there's a closing date, and in those types of situations, we're happy to go ahead and wait till closing to be able to receive the check from the title company, as opposed to the seller of the property ending up having to come out of pocket right away.
Right.
And so that's something that we've always been really, really happy to do and work with y'all on, and just trying to be flexible to make these things work for everybody.
Absolutely.
To everybody's benefit.
Well, there you have it. Robbie Thomae, thank you so much. He's my local expert. He's my go-to, my secret weapon. We are here. Everything I use to get your house sold or to get your house bought is with the best. And thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it.
Appreciate you.
If you need anything, please reach out. TSG, the Schrader Group, we're here for you. Thank you so much. Have a blessed day, and we'll talk to you soon.